Female suicide bombers target a crowded fish market in northern Nigeria. A closer look at the obstacles that remain to ending Ebola in West Africa. And Kim Kardashian drops a big baby reveal in her Father's Day post to Kanye. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. A deadly bombing attack in northeastern Nigeria has once again left residents shaken and feeling insecure about the ability of the government to protect them from violence by extremists. At least 30 people were killed and many others were wounded when a female suicide bomber blew herself up in a crowded fish market near a mosque in the city of Maiduguri. It is the fourth suicide bombing this month in Maiduguri. The violent explosion demolished part of the market, reducing the structure to a pile of rubble. The device was detonated as traders were observing afternoon prayers. Witnesses say a second woman fled the area and blew herself up a few minutes later, but killed only herself. Although there was no immediate claim of responsibility, Islamist Boko Haram terrorists have frequently targeted civilians at markets and bus stations in Maiduguri during their 6-year insurgency. Boko Haram has kidnapped hundreds and hundreds of girls and women, and the numbers of female suicide bombers has raised fears that it is using the captives in its campaign against the Nigerian government. Well, Boko Haram has stepped up its attacks since Nigeria's new president Muhammadu Buhari announced that he was moving the military command center from the capital Abuja to Maiduguri in Borno State. For more on this latest attack, journalist Blessings Tuno joins us by phone from Borno State. Good evening, Blessings.
Hi, Vincent.
Yes. Now, first, we have seen quite a number of attacks since President Buhari moved the operation headquarters to Maiduguri. What are people saying? Is it a failure? Is it working at all?
Yeah, people here are quite hopeful that President Muhammad Buhari's pronouncement concerning the movement of the command center here in Maiduguri is actually responsible for this pocket of attacks happening, and they feel that it's an indication that the insurgents are trying to say that they are still very much around. But then the nature of the attacks is quite different from what was experienced before. The attacks are quite unconventional right now, but it has not dampened the hope of the people that the military and then the new federal government, is in the right direction, is taking the right steps towards ending the insurgency here.
Now, in terms of the suicide bombers themselves, increasingly use of women, is there any confirmation that these are those who've been captured, or are they those who actually offer themselves up to do this?
Well, the suicide bombers so far, none of them has been identified. They are just trained girls that just get to public places and blow themselves up. And even when the casualties are together, no one steps forward to identify those girls. So they're just trained girls, and no one knows where they are coming from.
Now, just a quick assessment here, especially from what perhaps people are saying. Have the attacks decreased or increased since the new president took office?
What actually happened was just a few weeks before the inauguration, there was a gun battle between the military here and the insurgents when they tried to force themselves through the Kayamla area of Maiduguri. They tried to force themselves into the state capital. And intelligence reports indicated that 600 suicide bombers were kitted to come and carry out various attacks within the capital city. And so they actually came in here even before the pronouncement of President Muhammadu Buhari, even before the new government was inaugurated. And what is happening now is an indication that the suicide bombers are actually carrying out their earlier plan. And as it is, it appears they are here within Maiduguri. They live within with the residents, and they decide when and where to carry out their attacks. So it has nothing to do with the success or the failure of the military.
Well, a very volatile situation there. Thank you very much, Blessing, for that report. Journalist Blessing Tuno of Channels TV reporting from Maiduguri, Nigeria. Now, a diplomatic row is brewing between London and Kigali following the arrest of Rwandan intelligence chief Karenzi Karake by British police at the request of Spain, where he is wanted in connection with war crimes. Rwanda says it is outraged that Britain arrested Karake. Karake, Director General of Rwanda's National Intelligence and Security Services, was arrested at London Heathrow Airport on Saturday. In 2008, a Spanish High Court judge accused 40 Rwandan military and political leaders, including Karake, of engaging in reprisals killings after the country's 1994 genocide. He indicted the officials for genocide, crimes against humanity and terrorism, which resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of civilians, including Spaniards. Karake is slated to appear in court on Thursday. Now, turning to the U.S., the shooting rampage in Charleston, South Carolina, is forcing Washington to again wrestle with the easy availability of guns in a nation that constitutionally protects the right to bear arms. As VOA's Michael Bowman reports, the massacre has reignited a national debate on gun control that so far gun rights advocates are winning.
Amid grief in Charleston expressed by the city's mayor,
we all have one thing in common. Our hearts are broken.
Reports that suspected shooter Dylan Roof, by all accounts a troubled young man, was given a gun as a birthday present earlier this year. President Barack Obama says America has a problem it must confront.
Every country has violent, hateful, or mentally unstable people. What's different is not every country is awash with easily accessible guns. And so I refuse to act as if this is the new normal.
Already the issue is reverberating in next year's presidential race. Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton noted the Charleston tragedy followed shooting rampages at a Connecticut elementary school and a Colorado movie theater.
We have to face hard truths about race, violence, guns, and division. How many innocent people in our country, from little children to church members to movie theater attendees, how many people do we need to see cut down before we act?
America's biggest gun rights lobby, the National Rifle Association, has not shied from the fight. Wayne LaPierre heads the group.
We will elect our next great president of the United States of America, and it will not be Hillary Rodham Clinton.
The NRA's political clout is such that prominent Republicans lined up to address its annual national convention this year, including former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, who is now running for president.
I have a message for the Obama administration. Why don't you focus more on keeping weapons out of the hands of Islamic terrorists and less on keeping weapons out of the hands of law-abiding Americans?
The U.S. Constitution's Bill of Rights affirms the right to bear arms, and the United States has almost as many privately owned guns as citizens. 2 years ago, the Senate tried and failed to pass legislation to better scrutinize gun buyers. President Obama says such measures are politically perilous, but will be embraced one day.
I know today's politics makes it less likely that we see any sort of serious gun safety legislation. I want to be clear, I am not resigned. I have faith we will eventually do the right thing.
Charleston was the latest outburst of gun violence in America. Few, if any, think it will be the last. Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
U.S. President Barack Obama spoke out against religious prejudice on Monday at a White House dinner celebrating the start of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. Dozens of dignitaries and Muslim Americans were on hand for a traditional iftar dinner, which follows daily fasting from dawn to sunset. Mr. Obama said the iftar dinner is a reminder of the freedoms that bind us together as Americans, including the inviolable right to practice our faith freely. He condemned a number of recent deadly incidents involving religion, including last week's mass shooting at an African-American church in Charleston, South Carolina.
As Americans, we insist that nobody should be targeted because of who they are or what they look like, who they love, how they worship. We stand united against these hateful acts.
Well, the president recognized a number of young Muslim American activists in the audience, including Samantha Iloff, who successfully won a Supreme Court case to defend her right to wear a hijab or headscarf after she was rejected for a sales job at a retail clothing store. Mr. Obama also recognized the refugee crisis triggered by the ongoing violent uprisings in the Middle East, as well as the plight of Myanmar's Rohingya Muslims escaping persecution in their country. Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. Check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, combating Ebola. While great progress has been made, obstacles remain. Stay with us.
This is Greenbeat for a healthier planet.
Drought, record flooding, and deadly heat waves. A recent study in the journal Nature Climate Change says extreme weather is becoming more frequent and links it to a rise in greenhouse gas emissions. The report says such weather events have more than doubled in the past 3 decades. Harold Brooks is with the National Weather Center.
The heat wave, particularly the one in Europe in the early 2000s and the one in Russia a couple of years ago, almost certainly had their probabilities increased dramatically because of greenhouse gas emissions.
Brooks says, however, the world will continue to experience extreme weather no matter what happens with greenhouse gas emissions.
The really interesting question is we try to actually answer is, has the increase in greenhouse gases changed the probability of an event occurring?
Brooks says in general, weather watchers expect to see an increase in both floods and droughts associated with greenhouse gas emissions. I'm VOA's Rebecca Ward for Greenbeat.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Joining us now from New York City for our business report is Africa 54 business correspondent Alexis Christoforos. Hello, Alexis.
Hi, Vincent.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, stocks here in the U.S. edged higher today. The Nasdaq briefly touched a record high as investors continue to hold out hope that Greece will reach a deal this week with the European Union and avoid bankruptcy. Stocks also got a lift from better than expected figures on new home sales in the U.S. A new report finds Greece's troubles that have not held back the Eurozone's economy, at least not yet. A survey of purchasing managers shows the Eurozone economy.
Well, now it looks like South Africa's central bank may have some room to hold off raising interest rates after all, right?
Oh, hello. I'm terribly sorry. Are you able to hear me, Vincent?
I hear you, Alexis, and I was just asking you the situation with South Africa, which looks like it has some room to kind of, hold off.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you, Vincent. I apologize.
Okay. Looks like we're running into trouble with audio from New York. So, Alexis, we will talk hopefully some other time when we get everything in order and working.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Alexis, all the same. From New York. Okay. We go ahead now for our health segment because Lenore Modu is back and she's here with a look at Ebola in West Africa and a new drug to fight malaria. Lenore.
Hello, Vincent. Hello, everyone. Scientists have discovered a new anti-malaria compound that could treat patients with a single dose. The new compound works differently than other drugs by targeting part of the protein maker within the parasite. It should be effective against the current drug-resistant disease. The plan is to advance the experimental medicine into clinical trials within the next year to assess its safety and efficacy. The compound was developed in Scotland by the University of Dundee's Drug Discovery Unit and the non-profit Medicines for Malaria venture. The scientists behind the project estimate that it should cost about $1 per treatment, putting it within reach of the most affected patients who live in poor countries. Now, a spike in the number of Ebola victims in Guinea has citizens and health officials in West Africa concerned about a possible return of the deadly disease. VOA's Carol Pearson reports on the obstacles to getting rid of the Ebola virus.
It's the start of the rainy season in West Africa when roads turn to mud, making it hard to get medicine and supplies to those with Ebola. This is just one of the obstacles to ending the epidemic in Guinea and Sierra Leone. Others include attitude. People in these countries have been living in the midst of an Ebola crisis for more than a year, and that can make a deadly virus seem normal, says Dr. Bruce Aylward from the World Health Organization.
Over time, people get used to Ebola. In these communities, we're seeing people trying to treat Ebola at home when they know it's Ebola, trying to manage it at home by taking precautions and wearing gloves and things like that. And I think at a different level internationally, people are, and in a different way, getting used to hearing about Ebola, which is really, really scary.
Stigma, fear, and denial are associated with the disease. Ella Watson-Stryker spoke about it in a webcast from Doctors Without Borders, or Médecins Sans Frontières.
Ebola is a disease that creates fear, and everyone's afraid, whether it's the leader of a small village, whether it's the president of a country. The doctors and nurses who respond are afraid, the health promoters who are there trying to talk about Ebola are afraid, and our patients are terrified. And so I think that's the biggest barrier that we have to overcome. And something that we learn again and again is that when people are afraid, denial becomes a really good fallback.
Finding out who has had contact with a sick person is as crucial in controlling Ebola as getting people into treatment centers. Sophie Sabatier, also with Doctors Without Borders, spoke with VOA from Conakry.
As long as there is one case of Ebola, the epidemic is not finished.
Another obstacle, poor public health systems. Many West African hospitals lack running water and electricity. Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia are asking the international community to help them build modern health facilities. Dr. Tom Frieden of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control emphasized this need in a speech at the World Bank in March.
The public health infrastructure is crucial to get to zero and to stay at zero.
Dr. Frieden said a good national health system will always be able to respond faster than the international community can at the beginning of an epidemic. Carol Pearson, VOA News, Washington.
And that's our Africa Health Report for today. Vincent?
Well, thanks a lot, Lenore. Be sure to watch Lenore Mudu's health reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Well, out to West Africa, rice is used as a core ingredient in almost all traditional Senegalese cuisine, but only 20% is produced within the country. Now, Senegal has decided to stop rice imports and make the country self-sufficient. Africa 54's Mel Bailey has more.
Senegal consumes roughly 700,000 metric tons of rice per year. Currently, 90% of that rice is imported from countries like Thailand and India, making the country the second largest importer of rice in West Africa. Senegalese President Macky Sall has launched a program that hopes to make Senegal self-sufficient in rice production by 2017. But rice cultivators say that hope is far from becoming a reality.
Concerning the program launched by the state, if this were the cosmos that it used to be, where it rained a lot all the time, where you could cultivate rice anywhere, back then that cosmos would have produced the rice required for the program. It would rain from morning until afternoon. You'd be walking through water to get to the rice fields. But now we can wait until July, the planting period, without any sign of rain.
The region of Casamance, known as the granary of the country, has been targeted as a cultivation zone for the program. In the region, rice cultivation is done in two ways: by rainwater and using the water from a dam. In the valley of Sumakunda, one of the only regions that cultivates rice annually using rainwater, one rice farmer talks about the cultivation process.
Right now, the rice is sprouting. The whole process is simple. First, we lance the rice into the field. Then we wait for about 2 months. Then the women come and dig it up. What you see right now needs about 2 more months until it's ready.
First, small enveloped bits of rice known as paddy are sprinkled onto the open earth. Then water is used to flood the space, and that rice begins to sprout. It is then replanted, and several months later, the rice is dug up, cracked, and ready to cook. The entire process takes roughly 5 to 6 months. The general director of Sodagri, an organization heading the rehabilitation of dams and fields for the program, says they are doing everything in their power to help President Sall's goal come to fruition.
We already have the basin of Anambé, where there are 5,000 hectares to repair, versus the areas where dams weren't holding up. So we started a program to rehabilitate the basin. We started this program, and currently 3,500 hectares are being rehabilitated as we speak.
The organization has several plans in place to repair all major rice-producing areas in the sub-region before 2017. The director says that the plan itself could change a lot for Senegal, not just economically, but for the health of the people as well.
I think that already the fact of being a self-sufficient region is economically more beneficial because Senegal spends about 300 billion CFA just to import rice. It is important economically, but also important for health purposes because we will be eating rice that we ourselves have cultivated.
As the project continues, local cultivators urge the government to repair their lands, not just to end importation and feed the country, but to feed themselves as well. This is Mel Bailey for Africa 54, Casamance, Senegal.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, Kim and Kanye's big baby reveal. We'll be right back.
Of the final results to the House of People Representatives and the Regional State Council በአገር ደረጃ ሰማያዊ ፓርቲ ሶስተኛ ወጥቷል። በአገር ደረጃ Yes, them to walk it.
And welcome back to Africa 54. Here is what is trending. Kim Kardashian is expecting a baby boy. A spokeswoman for Kardashian confirmed a post that the reality star made on Instagram and Twitter in a message to her rapper husband, Kanye West. A picture of West reading a book to their 2-year-old daughter, Northwest, is captioned, "You're such a good daddy to North. You will be the best daddy to our new son, too." Kardashian revealed the news of her pregnancy in a clip that appeared after an episode of the e-reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Next up, the Tel Aviv startup Mobly has unveiled a revolutionary real-time image search engine. iIn is now available on the web and as a mobile app. The search engine's algorithms filter out content like selfies to return the most relevant results to users almost as soon as they are posted on social networks. That means iIn can select the most relevant content from live events or trending topics and sort images so users don't have to wade through thousands of hashtag results or rely on news outlets to select photos and videos. Leading publishers like Huffington Post, Rand Incorporated, and more are already embedding iIn within their articles to add real-time photos and videos. And that's what's trending. And more Americans are getting tattoos. In fact, 21% of adults in the U.S. now have at least one tattoo, which is up from previous years. And a growing number of them are choosing Japanese-style images. Now, a renowned museum in Richmond, Virginia, is celebrating the ancient art of Japanese tattoo with a special exhibit. VOA's Julie Tabor has more.
Bradley Miller is getting a snake tattoo.
Before I had skulls and simpler, not as detailed tattoos, so I wanted to get a tattoo that had more detail and more finesse or more pop.
Miller is among a growing number of young Americans getting tattoos. Some get simple words, shapes, or pictures. Others choose traditional Japanese-style tattoos. The evolution of this ancient art form is the focus of a new exhibit at the renowned Virginia Museum of Fine Arts in Richmond. It's a series of photographic portraits of people with tattoos that were created by some of the world's finest Japanese-style tattoo artists. Leanne Chesterfield is the museum's interim deputy director for art and education.
What you'll see in this exhibition and what you'll see throughout America today actually is a great synthesis of the traditional Japanese tattoo with the modern American take on that.
That tradition includes the use of symbolic Japanese images, koi, dragons, cherry blossoms, that flow seamlessly into a full-body tattoo or form a shoulder and arm sleeve or a full back tattoo. Photographer Kip Fulbeck created the exhibit along with renowned master tattoo artist Takahiro Horitaka Kitamura. They handpicked 7 of the world's leading tattoo artists, as well as several others who practice Japanese-style tattooing, to represent the contemporary world of this centuries-old art form.
Japanese tattooing is very different than Western tattooing in that it's an art form that is revered in every country in the world except the country of its origin.
That's because in Japan, tattoos are associated with the Japanese mafia, known globally as the Yakuza. Fulbeck hopes to dispel that stereotype.
Did I photograph some Yakuza? Sure. But I also photographed police officers and firefighters and professors and CEOs and teachers. So I'd like people to go through and see this and recognize that this is an amazing type of artistry that's been honed over thousands of years.
I have sleeves by Ryo Daibori, Takahiro Kitamura, who's the curator here.
Fulbeck's own tattoos were created by 3 master artists over dozens of sessions. An intimate and respectful process.
Traditional Japanese tattooing is not like Western. The customer's always right, where you go into a store, I want this, I want this, I want this now. To go to someone this level, these artists, you let them do what they want to do.
Zach Hendrickson got his Japanese-style tattoo by renowned artist Brian Bruno in Richmond, Virginia, home.
Real talk, real issues. The Real Africa. It's time to get the scoop. Monday through Friday on VOA. Find your time zone and get the scoop.
We are able to touch on things that are important to people on an everyday basis. Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. In a lively half hour, news, sports, health, lifestyle information, comments from our viewers. Africa 54, the best for Africa, about Africa. Join us only on VOA.